Good day, crafters. I'm Kathy Lee from Kathy's Creative Place, and I have some projects I'm going to share with you that I made with a design team package I received from Country Craft Creations. And in the design team package, I got a couple of things. Um, Tammy had some uh, uh, Christmas in the Country collection papers that had a little bit of um, bent edges and they were marked as damaged. So I'm like, well, I can use these for cards. So she sent me a note and I thought, oh yeah, I love this, the shabby chic type collage papers that are in Prima. And so what I did is I actually used these papers for several of these cards that I'm going to share with you. So having just the papers, I kind of added a lot of things from my stash. And the other thing, though, I did is because the number of sheets of the pattern papers that I had from Prima were a bit limited. I added a few other papers from Maja Designs, a gift for you. Now, of course, these are these are papers that are from Sweden. So, and I think it's probably a couple years old, and I still have lots of papers. So I used some of those to supplement my cards. So the first one we're going to take a look at here, and also I did want to mention a lot of these have like some mixed media type elements. So I did a little bit of, you can see here, I did a little bit of stenciling with some embossing paste. And then I also did a little bit of, uh, used some of this. This is like my favorite new product, Nouveau Embellishment Mousse. And this is so fun to use. And I used gold on this particular card, but Tammy has, I think she has platinum in the store right now, and she also has this aquamarine. And we are going to use this on a card. Then I'm going to do a tutorial and kind of show you some of the different techniques that you can use on your cards for using mixed media type products. So this card here, I used a magnolia uh, poinsettia die, and I actually used some other elements. Here I just have everything all over on my desk here. I did use this Bow Bunny stamp set. So some of these flowers have these two stamps on top of it, and then I gave it some brushed edge with some pink distress ink, and I can't remember which pink it was, but I think it was probably the aged mahogany. And then I also took some of that mousse and then put a little bit of the gold around the edges and some on top of the um, on the petals, really pretty. And then I added some stamens from my stash. And then I kind of think outside the box when I'm creating cards. So I don't stick around in a store that has just scrapbooking elements. I peruse the entire store. So I find things that are in the fabric center. My favorite, of course, is Hobby Lobby and Joann's because they just have a plethora of uh, uh, pretty stuff in the stores. And so I go to their the flowers sections, and I get these cute little things that you see, and it's stuff that you would normally put like on flower arrangements or wreaths or any type of like maybe a table centerpiece. But I find that they are perfect for cards too. So when you're in Hobby Lobby or Joann's next time, peruse the other areas. Don't just stick around in the scrapbooking and the die cuts sections, but they always have beautiful laces. I go to the wedding section. It's just there's just so many different things that you can think of to put on your cards. So this one I also included some string beads. It's just some little gold pearl trim. And then I also had some tiny little pine cones, and I put a little bit of snow text on it and then sprinkled it with some glamour dust so it looks like there's snow on them. And then I have a couple of pins for my stash. I have a whole package of these. I use them all the time, and I love putting them on my cards because they just really make them really chic looking. So I put a couple of pins, and then this is one of the cut aparts from the Christmas in the Country collection. And then this barn door paper is also from the Prima Christmas collection. And then I had some dies that I cut out some snowflakes, and then I used some glue, and then I just sprinkled them with glamour dust so it gives it that little real snowy scene, which is what this is all about. And I love these papers because they have a little bit of the gold foils in them, and I thought, well, that's perfect because that gives me a chance to use this. So I used that all over on these cards. This is the inside, has this cute little barn. This is from the cut aparts, and then again that pretty barn paper, and then this is part of a of the collage paper. And I just did a lot of distressing, and what I did to distress this particular one is I distressed it with my ink first, and then I used my Tim Holtz tool, because that way it has some dark edges, and then when you drag it after you've put that ink there, it pulls it up and makes it look really weathered. That's what I like about doing distressing. So that is that card. The next one, again, some Prima papers here, and then this is a cut apart that I trimmed down. And then these little items are actually stickers from the Simple Stories Christmas collection, which is Country Christmas, and I just use those to kind of add some sentiment elements to the card. This one I did a little bit of distressing with some paint around the edge. I did also use some of the my Tim Holtz tool, and then this panel here I actually tore it on this side, if you can kind of tell, and it has a really weathered look on the edge. And then this is a die that I have in my stash. It's a cute little stitched bow. And then I also got these from Country Craft Creations. Tamara has these in the store. They're little Tim Holtz elements, and I thought that's so cute. And this is a deer, and I covered him with that pretty gold Nouveau embellishment mousse. And then also these. So I like to switch gears and change things up a little bit when I'm making cards. So I don't always use the same dies or same flowers when I'm making a card. So on this card, rather than using the same dies, these are the magnolia dies I used on the previous card, and they're like this. And then I just layered multiple pieces together and created my poinsettias with those. Now this one is using this die from Tim Holtz. It is, I love this, this is probably my favorite one. It also comes with an embossing folder, so it's three sizes of the flower petals, and then it has little middles here if you want to use those. But once you Here I've got some that I've already cut out. Once you have cut out your pieces, then all you have to do is set your, there it is, like that. Set your flowers inside the folder, close it, run it through your machine, and they come out like this. They have really, really pretty embossed elements on it, and it looks exactly like what you see here. So that's what I did with these, and rather than using cardstock for this, though, I used some of the Prima papers for them. So this, you can see, this one is actually one of the Maja Designs papers. That's what I used as my base in the back. And then this is also a Maja design. But these, and then these flowers are made with the Prima papers. And then I have a little leaf punch. Kind of looks like a fern type leaf, and I put those around my flowers. This is a die that I have, and this is some of the paper, the Prima paper as well, that I just punched it out, did a little bit of inking around the edges, and then for the inside we have a cut apart from the collection, and then the collage paper that I use in the back, and these two are actually from Maja. And that is that card. And then the last one here is, I love this one. This is probably one of my favorites. So I used a little bit different design for this one. Still same panels, but I didn't do a lot of distressing. I wanted it nice and clean. But again, there are certain things about this that makes it shabby. So I took some of my Nouveau and put it on my the edge of my panel here, and this is a die, an edge die that I used for this brown cardstock, and then again for this panel here for my cut apart. And then I also did machine stitching around all of my panels. I love using my sewing machine for stuff like that. So it really gives it a lot more texture, and it just makes it a pretty card. This is a tag die that I have from Magnolia, and I just cut a couple of pieces from the papers and topped them with some seam binding and some Christmassy baker's twine, and then I added some of the charms that I had in my stash as well. These are Wild Orchid Crafts, and then again I used that same Tim Holtz die, and this one I used the Nouveau for this one. Really, really makes it glossy and pretty. I love this die. It's one of my favorites. And then I just added a few other elements around here, some lace, and then a seam binding bow. And again, this is one of those cute little sentiment stickers from the Simple Stories collection, and they fit really well on the card. And then I also have some of these little metal corners that I got from Butterbee Scraps, so I used those on there. And then the inside, basically some of the same design elements, did a little bit of stitching, and then the gold foiling around the edge, or it's actually the embellishment mousse. And then same here with this cute little cut apart that I trimmed down, and then another sticker from the Simple Stories collection. And that is that card. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make a card with you that uses some of these types of techniques, so that you can get ideas and make cards with whatever you have in your stash, dies, embellishment mousse. I'm also going to probably use this with a stencil, so we're going to work on that here shortly. Okay, things were going so well, and then all of a sudden I lost some footage. I don't know if it's operator error, if I deleted it, or it just didn't start recording or what. But anyway, so I started to make this card and I was making it with you all. So I'll just go through a couple things that I did. I used a little stencil, and I just did this for a little bit of texture. It's a stencil that's, I think it's a TCW stencil that is little music notes. So if you can kind of see the shimmer of the music, and I just did put it in a couple places. I didn't want to do any full coverage or anything like that because I'm going to put these on this panel. It's going to cover up part of that anyway. So what I did too is I distressed my edges with my Tim Holtz tool. So I haven't done my sentiment. So we'll go ahead and do that now. So all I'm doing is just doing some distressing. Now, I don't want to distress every edge, just pieces here and there, just to give it a little bit more texture and make it look a little bit more vintage. Okay, so that's what I did with that. And then for these panels, usually I will take my one of my tools like this and go around with my ink. But this time I'm using this, and I'm just going to use my Distress Ink Hickory Smoke, and I'm going to go directly onto the paper and just give it a nice edge. It'll help it really stand out from that white cardstock. Now, because this is so dark and it is inking directly on the paper, you have to be careful because it will mark your white paper. As you see here, I've got a couple little parts, but that's okay. This is going to cover that up anyway. But so let your inked edges dry before you do anything, especially if you're working with white cardstock. Okay, so for these, I'm just going to put these on white panels. This is a 6x6 top folding card, just like this. And then I'm using the Simple Stories. Well, here it is. I'm using the Simple Stories 6x8 paper pad. And then I have a few other pieces that Tammy sent me in my package. I have a full sheet of the stickers, excuse me, stickers, and then a couple sheets of basically the cut aparts and those accent papers that come with collection, like these the greens, reds, and the aqua. This is white, and they have little dots on them. And then the back is just kind of a collage-y, stained look. And so these are perfect for cards because I can use these as my backgrounds and part of the card base. And then also with my package, I did receive these little mini stickers. This is the little tablet, and some of my cards I showed you before, this is where I was pulling some of those sentiments from. And they're just cute little sayings, really easy and so simple, and you can add to any card if you need a sentiment. And then, of course, love all the pretty stickers, and you can use these for the sentiments on the inside, outside, to decorate the front and inside of your cards. I just love these. So I got a whole package of that. And then I also received some red, green, and white seam binding, and I am going to show you a little trick that that I'm going to use for this card. With this package, I also got washi tape, a whole package of washi tape, and it has these cute. There's one that has these cute deer kind of in the forest. That's the same paper. And then there's poinsettias and holly berries with musical notes in the background. That's kind of the reason why I wanted to carry some of those other elements onto my cards. And then this adorable plaid. And I love washi tapes, but the one thing about it that I don't like, it's not permanent. So I also use just generic washi tape, and I don't care what pattern it is or what color, but I use it too to hold my dies in place because it's perfect. It comes right up off of your paper. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little trick that I'm going to use with the washi tape and the seam binding to make a bow, and you will be astonished at how fun and easy this is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is um, I'm just going to take my paper panels, and I'm going to add my first panel to the exterior of my card so we can get that adhered. And I got some glue here. Alright, so lay that on my card, and this is again 6x6 paper or card base, so it's 12 by 6 and then scored at 6 inches. This is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4 is the size of my base, and then this one here I think is 4 by I think it's 4 by 4 and 4 3/4 or something. This panel here, I've got my ruler right here. That way, yeah, 4 3/4 by 3 3/4. So my base panel is 5 by 4. I think 4 1/8. So I'm just going to put this one on this panel. Okay, and I'm just going to lift up some of the corners and the edges. Okay, and that's going to go right on top here. I also picked out some pretty lace, so I'll probably use that across my second panel. And then this should be dry now, so I'm just going to adhere that to my white panel. And this is a 3 by 4 cut apart that I just trimmed, kind of like a 3 by 3 square. I'm getting kind of messy with the glue here today. And then I just used a 1/8 inch border. There we go. Okay, so this is going to sit right on the front of my card like this. And then, because I've lost the footage, I didn't show you how I made these poinsettias. So the one thing I will say is, and I mentioned this before, I like to use different types of flowers. I don't like to stick with the same thing for every card. So I did make some extras that have and you can use any die or you can cut them by hand. And this is this die, which is an older Spellbinders die, but I still love it and I still use it. So what I did is just played around with this one, and basically I used the 3 of the petals and I put it in my Tim Holtz embossing to make it look like this one. So it has a different shape, but has the same effect. And then I put some stamens in. So just goes to show you that you can do just about anything with any die. And then this one is also one of the spell binders, and this is the traditional. So I put it through the embossing, so you get that texture from the petals. And then I also put some embellishment mousse on here as well, and put a couple of pearls in the middle. I love this. I also have used my sparkling poinsettia, and another one of my cards I'm going to share with you later after we finish this one has this, and basically this is a stamp and die set, and I stamped with some distress ink, and then I took my distress ink and also just sponged around the edges, and then I've sent it through the die cut machine and just used my Heartfelt Creations shaping kit to mold them. So that was simple. So I just wanted to share that with you. Okay, so because I kind of missed creating these pieces with you, I'm going to make another flower so you can see how really easy and pretty this is. Okay, so I've got two that I die cut and embossed already, and I'm going to take my embellishment mousse, and we're going to use this pretty blue because it goes so well with this card. You probably can't tell on camera now, but if I get a little closer, you can see how that pretty blue just really makes that flower pop. So I'm just going to take my finger, just use my finger, and rub over top of the petals to bring out that embossing. Isn't that pretty? Same with this one. You can also use a sponge if you don't want to get your fingers dirty, but that's what I enjoy about mixed media. I love getting my fingers dirty. That's probably what I've always loved about painting too. I do a fair amount of watercolor, oil painting, and acrylic. Okay, so I'm just going to put that together. Now this, because it's such a thin layer of mousse on these, it dries so fast. So we're going to put them together right away. So I'm just going to put a little bit of our glitter glue in the middle, and take my top petal, just push it down. Let's just hold it there for a minute because the art glitter glue sets up fast, but we want to make sure that it's nice and adhered. Okay, so now after I've done that, then I basically just took my petals and I lifted them up and kind of bent them along that spine there that's on the embossed piece. Really gives it some dimension. And I just lift it up. And then the bottom petals, rather than folding back, I'm going to fold them forward. And that just really brings this flower to life. Gives it lots of pretty dimension. So, oops. So there is my finished flower. That was so easy. Okay, so we're going to use these on our card, and then I also have a larger one. So the dies that I'm using for these cards are the medium and the smaller ones. The big ones, they can eat up space on a card. So those, but I love using these for like my scrapbook pages, and I've shown using these in a scrapbook page from last year for Christmas. So if you wanted to go take a look how I did that, that's out on my. I'm going to use some silvery or platinum pearls for these. We'll see if I can use those. A lot of times I like to prep them first. And these are some of the Nouveau rose-colored uh, crystal drops. Oh, love the crystal drops. Fun. And these are, I think these are the Ranger. And I just put them on a piece of paper, and then I just put glue under them to adhere them to a flower. So just like enamel dots. That's how I'll do, and that's what I'll use for these. So I'm gonna go prep some more of those for the card. And then I need to decide on what I'm going to do for the front, for the inside of the card. Okay, so one technique I want to share with you, and we're going to use this background for one of our cards. This is a pretty stencil that I have, and this is from Echo Park. It just has some holly and berries, and there's a couple different things I'm going to use this for. So this is the Simple Stories. They're the dots paper that go with the Country Christmas collection. So I don't know if you can see this, but it's that more of an aqua blue. It looks white on the camera. It's probably because of the daylight and the light that I'm using. So you really can't tell that it's blue, but it is blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of my Nouveau Mousse, and this is the aquamarine. And this is really pretty because I think it will go really nicely with the paper. It'll give it a little bit more dimension and highlight. So I'm just going to take my stencil. I'm just going to use some painter's tape. That's what I use to hold my stencils down, or even my die cuts, because it will come off easily and won't rip your paper. Really nice. I love this stuff. And then okay. And then I'm going to take my spatula, or you can have like a craft knife, or even a painter's knife will work. Or you can use a credit card. I've done that too. I haven't found my spatulas, or I've actually broke some plastic ones before pushing too hard. So you can use a credit card. It works just as well. Okay, so for the inside of this card, we're going to use this piece that I just made uh, with the embellishment mousse. And what I'm going to do now is, and I just started cutting with my scissors, and I just followed the edges, and I'll probably trim this off as well. Oops, sorry, I'm out of camera. I'm going to trim off this edge as well. But I wanted to put a little bit more texture in here. So I'm going to tear this paper. So I'm going to use this along with this. I may just use, well, I don't know. Not sure what I want to do. Yeah, I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to choose another paper. We use this for our middle panel. So we're going to carry that same paper, same technique on the inside of the card. So I'm going to cut a little piece. I'm not going to go to the very top because I just want some texture. And oh my gosh, my dog is barking. Oh, he sees a deer, for heaven's sakes. Okay, so I decided all of my pieces I'm going to use on the inside of my card. So, as before, I cut this piece out. Actually, I just kind of tore it, and I'm going to distress this with hickory smoke and my pad for this because I want a little definition around the edge, but I don't want to distress it too much. So I'm just going to use my soft pad to give it that defined edge look. Okay. Now these other pieces though, I'm going to use the same technique that I did with all three panels on the front. So I'm going to distress a few areas, not everything. Okay. I've also decided to use uh, a, another another pretty flower for the inside. Although I'm not going to make it dimensional because sometimes when you start putting a lot of weight and dimensional pieces on the inside of the card, then it doesn't sit flat, and we kind of want it to sit flat, especially if you're going to put these in the mail. Now, I would highly suggest when you have a really dimensional card, such as this one here, and if you want to put it in the mail, I highly recommend number one. To me, I think of these cards as kind of gifts in themselves. So I like to wrap it in tissue paper, and then I also put it in a plastic bag to keep everything together in case something falls off. And then also I'll put it in like a padded envelope that has like the bubble wrap padded envelopes, and I like to do that for cards like this. I do have some other cards that are very detailed like this that I've sent overseas, where folks have purchased from my Etsy shop. So usually what I do there is I actually put it in a box. So I buy the special media boxes and ship it that way so that it doesn't get damaged, because these can certainly get damaged. I mean, really, all it is glue and paper, right? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get the front of our card put together here. So I'm going to put this on. Oops. Oh, jeez. I've got a new camera set up because I've moved to a new craft room, and my light, which is also part of my camera, mounted with my camera, is right next to me. So I've noticed that I'm constantly bumping it, and it's becoming very difficult to work with. So I may have to modify that. So if you see the camera shake, that's what happened. Okay. Alright, and we're just going to put this right in the middle. Just eyeball it. I don't do a lot of measuring or anything because I just mostly eyeball pretty much everything. Okay, the lace, we're going to put this kind of right in the middle. So separating those poinsettias, and I'm just going to use my art glitter glue. Or you can use some fabric glue if you like to use fabric glue. Art glitter glue holds this stuff. The one thing that I do have problems with for art glitter glue is like non-porous silky things, because sometimes they just come right off. It won't hold things like that. And I'll show you what I mean when we make the bow for this card, because you are going to learn a new technique of how to make your washi tape into ribbon. Okay, so we're going to put that in the center. Okay, I got that. Now, I think I might use some dimensionals, because the lace has some thickness. I want this to lay flat, so I'm going to put some scrap chipboard on the top and the bottom to go right over the right over my lace. And in fact, just for good measure, this is one thing I'll also do, because it's not going to show. We're going to trim a couple of these bottom pieces, and that'll give me more space to put my chipboard, because this is really wide, really wide lace. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so let's grab some chipboard. Okay, I use my old Fisker scissors for this job, because they're really sturdy and they're Teflon. And then another wide piece, and we're just going to set these on the top and bottom of my card here, just like that. And it'll set over the lace. And it'll give it a little bit more dimension too. And I'm not going to bother putting glue on the cardstock. This is going to hold it fine anyway. Okay. There she is. Alright. And that part's done. Now we just need to put our pretty flowers here, and I already put the centers on. Put a large and a small one there, and a small one down here. And down here, I'm going to put a bow. So let's go ahead and get these on. I'm not going to do hot glue or anything like that. I'll just use my arc glitter glue because it does a fine job of holding this stuff. It's perfect for this. We're going to kind of tuck it in around there. There we go. Okay. Gonna hold it on for a little bit and make sure that it adheres. There we go. Okay. And then this one. I don't want to push too hard on my little pearls. They might still be wet. This is what I used for that. Liquid pearls in platinum color. Okay, so now, while that is drying, we are going to make a ribbon bow with our washi tape using, ta-da, very easy, just a little bit of seam binding, and I'm going to cut about 12 inches here for that. Okay, and this works best with, this is 5/8. This is not half-inch seam binding, it's 5/8 inch wide, and so is the washi tape. The washi tape is 5/8 inch. So if you have a half inch, I mean, you can do that. It just will be a little bit sticky on the back. You might want to put some powder on the back of it. I use baby powder to take the sticky off of my stickers and that kind of stuff. Okay, so now, as I mentioned before, washi tape doesn't stick very well. It really wasn't meant to. This the type of it's transparent and it is very low tack. So, but what I did find when I was making these bows is that it sticks just fine and it doesn't roll off. Probably because it's a fabric and it's a little bit more porous than paper. Okay, so I'm just going to put, let's see, wait a minute. Let's use this one because that is the paper from my background. So I'm going to use that. Love these cute little deer. This collection is so pretty. Okay, so I'm just gonna lay my washi tape on top of my seam binding, as straight as you can get it. And if you find that you've got like a wrinkle or something, just pull it up and start again. Okay, that one's gone. All right, so now we're just gonna cut that off, and there is our ribbon. Now, all we're gonna do is make just a simple loop bow. And for that, I really like to use my my Bow Easy, and I'm going to use this this size here. This is the second largest. So if you're familiar with this, This is it's just a second hand helper. You can do this with your fingers too. But I find that this is so much easier, and I'm not having to fiddle with my fingers to make sure that I can't, pull things around. And or you can use your bullet awl too. A bullet awl will work just as well, and it's the um, same type of technique of uh, winding your ribbon around the pins versus just this piece of plastic. Okay, so I'm going to pull it in there. The tape becomes really pliable. So that's what I really like about the seam binding, is it allows that tape to become pliable and it doesn't tear. That's what's really cool about this. I hope I made a long enough piece of ribbon here. Okay, let's pull this around. There we go. Okay, and you have to be somewhat careful just in case, because you don't want to tear it. So I'm just going to pull pull. Okay. Get that nice and tight. There it goes. Okay. Now all you do is take your tails, because it is one-sided, and just twist them around. Or you can use this side. I don't like using that side because it's not the perfect bow middle. So just twist it. And then there is your bow made out of washi tape. Now for this one, because I realize that it's upside down, I'm going to pull my tails down this way, because it just happened that I did it that way on the Bow Easy. So if I'd paid attention, it wouldn't have been like that. So I guess it doesn't matter. For this one, because it is directional, it did kind of matter. So I'm going to take my scissors then and just cut like that. And there is my cute little washi tape bow. And we're going to put that right here, right underneath some of those petals. Okay, so now, as I was saying, washi tape, especially the top of washi tape, depending on the type of tape it is, this is really, really slick. Hot glue doesn't work. I tried art glitter glue, that doesn't work. It just slides right off. It just comes right off. It because it's non-porous. So what I found though is that the fabric glue works. So I just have a bottle of Fabrifix here, and I used to use this a lot for my lace, but art glitter glue just does that for me. It's just that this does not, that it will not hold the washi tape onto your card unless you use this. This will hold. So I'm just going to push that down a little bit. And this stuff will come pouring out. I have to leave it upside down because it's getting a little empty. Okay, so that'll sit and dry. It just takes a few minutes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let that dry upside down. one thing I guess I would probably say after making this, what you might want to do is make sure that you um, use at the very least 12 inches. As you saw, it was kind of hard to finagle and put that together, but the larger your bow, of course, the more amount of ribbon that you'll need. A lot of times, the way that I decide that, because sometimes I want to know, I use a whole long length because it's I want to make sure I know how long I want my tails. So for most of my bows, I usually use about a 3 inch, 3 to 4 inch tail, which starts from the middle to the end of your ribbon. And then I usually will wind it around like this, do the same thing, knowing that my tail is going to be this long, but I add an inch or so, 2 inches, just to make sure that I get enough length for that to make that bow. And this came out around 13 inches. So anywhere from 12 to 15 inches, you're going to be good. Okay, so now that we're just I'm just talking, that is that's looking pretty solid, glued. All right, so now on to our inside pieces. And that's the inside of our card. Alrighty. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed making this card with me. I've got another one that's coming. We're going to use this this embossed piece, but I'm going to paint the probably the outer part. We're going to put other panels on top of this, but I'm going to paint the outer part, some of the leaves and the berries, and we're going to do that with the Nuvo embellishment mousse. And I'm going to use the Pretty Aquamarine, and I've got another color here that I purchased at another craft store. It's called Red Leather. Really, really pretty shiny. So we've got some of that pretty blue and the pretty reds that are in this collection. And that's why I really love this mousse. It works so well with this Simple Stories collection.